In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my birth plan and all of my thoughts around labour and delivery. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is my 35-week pregnancy update, which means I've got 5 weeks approximately to give birth, till I give birth. So very exciting, very nerve-wracking, and I'll talk about that a bit later. But I thought I would just start off with my usual, what I talk about, which is my symptoms and my measurements. So my measurement around the widest part of my belly today was 104 centimetres, which is again similar to my last pregnancy with my first child. And I actually had a midwife appointment yesterday, and she measured my belly, you know, the way the midwives measure it, which is from the belly kind of button down, and that was 33. So that basically puts the baby in the growth chart at pretty average, and you can see here it's on track to be a really kind of average sized baby, and exactly on track to be the kind of same size as Samuel was when Samuel was born, which was about 7.5 pounds. So I'm really happy about that, and it seems to be going very normally and very well in terms of growth, and the baby seems to be doing really, really well. The baby is huge now, and I can definitely feel the baby being huge now. So at the midwife appointment yesterday, I'll just talk about that briefly. She did all the normal things, blood pressure, listened to the baby's heartbeat, and everything was just completely fine. So again, very happy, and nothing that I can really say about that that's particularly interesting or difficult, which is good, because you don't want your pregnancy to be interesting necessarily. You want it to go smoothly, and so far my pregnancy, it seems to be going very smoothly. Just some of the symptoms I've been having, pretty much the same as what I've been having in my last pregnancy updates. If you haven't watched them, I'll link the playlist here, you can go and check them out and see all the kind of symptoms that I've had. Basically just an increase in tiredness this week, which is to be expected, an increase in discomfort as the belly gets bigger. What else? An increase in the feeling of pressure, because the baby is head down now, and the baby is still head down, she checked yesterday. There's just more kind of pressure on bladder, and I'm also feeling the pressure up the top this time. So when I'm like sitting, it's very uncomfortable, like up the top of my belly, and I have to sit in like specific positions, and like with the pregnancy pillow and stuff at night time, and it's very uncomfortable. But it's nice, it's very nice, and of course I can feel the baby move a lot, and that's so lovely. I have had some movements that feel very, very weird. Like I love the movements usually because they kind of feel like little kicks to me, but then there was a movement the other day, like a few times I've had, and it's like a really weird feeling, almost as if the baby's like turning over. Like it was such a weird feeling, and I was like, oh, don't know if I like that. Don't know if I like that feeling of that movement, but it's like really funny, and it's really nice, and you can feel like little hands. And apparently, according to the app that I use, which is the Pregnancy Plus app, apparently you can, if you touch the baby, like if you press your belly and in one of the bits where you can feel the baby, you can actually, like the baby can actually feel you, and they can like feel your touch, which is quite sweet to think about, I think. I'm also getting a bit of the linea nigra, which is that line that you get down your belly. Not everyone gets it, but some people get it. I got it my first pregnancy, and I have got it again this time, but you can't see it quite as much. It's not quite as visible as last time. I don't know if that's because last time I was in the summer and I had my belly kind of like exposed to sunlight a slightly bit more. But it's not as dark as last time, but then I'm not quite at the end of pregnancy yet. So I definitely am getting that line again. And also my belly button is starting to stick out properly now, which makes me feel really, really, really pregnant. When your belly button starts to stick out, that's when you feel really big and pregnant. So those are all my main symptoms that I've had that are slightly changed. Basically what you would expect, just increasing discomfort and tiredness, and yeah, because I haven't had anything much else than that, I'm trying not to complain, because I'm very lucky not to have had anything else that's difficult about this pregnancy. Okay, moving on, I thought I would talk a little bit about my birth plan, because I'm getting towards the end of pregnancy now, and it's something that I think about, and like how I want labour and kind of delivery to go. Obviously, there's only so much of a plan you can make. Baby basically well, at the end of the day, there's only so much of a plan you can make with a baby. But you want to have some kind of idea of how you would ideally like your birth to go down, and then you have to be flexible within that, of course. So I'll just briefly recap on what my first birth was like if you don't know. So this is my second child. My first son's called Samuel, he's 2.5 now. And his birth, looking back, I felt it was quite a good birth. Like, I was quite happy about it. I have my positive birth story on this channel, and I felt at the time that it was a very positive birth, and I still feel like that looking back on it. But I do feel like I slightly look back with rose-tinted glasses. Like, I feel like I look back and I think of it slightly more positively than it actually maybe was, because, and when I really think about it, it was very hard, of course. But I just think I was expecting it to be harder and worse than it was, and so when I actually gave birth, it wasn't actually quite as bad as that. But it was still very, very difficult, and I'm trying to kind of remind myself of that so that I don't go into this labour thinking everything's going to be like amazing. So I don't want to, like, I'm a pessimist, so I don't want to like be really optimistic and then have myself like struggling more in labour because I'm not mentally prepared properly, if that makes sense. So I'm really going to think about, I'm trying to think a bit more about mentally preparing in the next few weeks for giving birth, because that's something I haven't done this time as much as I did last time. Last time I felt like I read a bunch of books, I listened to more podcasts, I did more mental preparation for giving birth, and this time I feel like I've just not done that. I feel very physically prepared, like all the baby's clothes are out and everything and organised, but I don't feel very mentally prepared this time, and that's something I really want to kind of do more in the next few weeks. Okay, so my previous birth. There's 3 things that really stick out to me about my previous birth that are slightly more negative. So I'm not going to talk about all the positive things and the things that went well. You can watch my video if you want to check that out. But the things that kind of stuck out to me that I would like to avoid this time. The first time I had an episiotomy, which is where they cut you, basically the baby's head. I was pushing for like 4 hours approximately, and the baby's head was there, and it wasn't coming out. Partly I think because I was so exhausted towards the end. I had a very long labour as well, a long and exhausting labour. I went into labour, very early labour, on early Sunday morning, and then I actually gave birth on Tuesday morning. So it was a very, very long, exhausting labour, and I think by the end I just had enough. My body was just, it was worn out completely. And then I ended up having an episiotomy, which is where, like I said, they cut you. And it was okay, the episiotomy was okay, and it was good in the sense that the baby came and I was very happy about that. But of course, if at all possible, I'd prefer not to have an episiotomy and to give birth without needing to be cut. So that's the kind of first couple of things that I would like to change. Obviously I can't do anything about the length of the labour or the fact that it was so long and exhausting, but it's the second baby, so I'm hoping that the second time around it's going to be shorter, because everyone says that your labour is shorter the second time around. So I'm really, really hoping for that, because I think it'll be much easier to cope with and much less difficult if it isn't so long, very, very long and exhausting. So I can't do anything about that, but that's what I'd like to be different. I'd like it to be a shorter labour this time so that I have more strength, especially towards the end, and I would like to not have an episiotomy. Again, another thing about the length of the labour, that really impacted the first few weeks of Samuel's life because I was so exhausted, and of course with a newborn baby you can't really catch up on sleep. So you can't catch up on the sleep that you've missed. So I missed about two nights of sleep because I was in labour, and trying to catch up on that with a newborn is crazy difficult, and obviously you're physically exhausted as well. So the actual length and exhaustion of the labour was actually probably the most difficult thing I think about my labour, because you just can't catch up on that sleep with a newborn. So that's what I want. I want it to be shorter. Please let my second birth be shorter. And the other thing that I want to change that I have more control over is, last time I went into the hospital twice. I forgot, I don't know if I said this actually. I'm planning on giving birth in a hospital. I live in the UK and we have midwife-led units in the hospitals, and I feel very comfortable giving birth in hospitals, so I'm very happy to do that. So that's what I'm planning to do, is go into hospital. But last time I went in twice. So you phone up triage, you phone up the midwife centre when you're in labour, and they kind of advise you whether or not to come in. And so the first time that I went in, they sent me home because I wasn't dilated. Second time I went in, I was really, really struggling, and they sent me home again, and that was really hard because I was in such massive amounts of pain the second time. And then the third time they kept me in, but I really don't want to go in and be sent home twice this time. If they send people home still because of COVID, I don't know if they do that, but I don't want to be sent home twice, because that was really hard. Like the actual journey of going to the hospital in a car, it's like sitting in a car position, like in a car seat, just sitting there for like 15-20 minutes till it gets to hospital was really hard when you're in labour. And then the hospital that we go to, you have to walk obviously across the car park, and then the midwife centre is at the right other end of the hospital, up like 2 or 3 flights of stairs, and at the end of this massive corridor which feels like endless when you're in labour. So to have to do that 3 times when you're in labour in total was really difficult. So this time I'm going to try and wait a bit longer to make sure I'm further on in my labour, so that I don't get sent home again. But of course it's hard to kind of gauge where you are in labour, because if you've been in pain for a long time, you're just thinking, I just want to go to hospital and kind of be there and be settled and be ready to give birth, you know. There's something about being at home, if you're not planning to give birth at home, that I couldn't fully settle, because I was knowing I had to make the trip to hospital and get all that done, and I couldn't fully relax because I knew I was going to the hospital. So I just thought, I've struggled with getting sent home twice last time, and having to do the journey 3 times was really hard. And so I'm going to try somehow to wait a bit more this time and go in a bit later, but then the baby's going to come faster potentially because it's the second baby. So I don't know, we're going to have to play that one by ear, I guess. Play that a bit by, just see what happens and see how I feel at the time. But those are the 3 things that I would like to avoid from last time, which is episiotomy, being sent home twice, and hopefully it won't be as long and exhausting as last time. I've got notes here, that's why I'm looking here, by the way. Also, so this birth, I also want to avoid an epidural if possible. I didn't have one last time, and I just want to, I'm not particularly against it if I really need one, but I just want to avoid it if possible, because I don't feel like it's something that would necessarily be helpful for me personally. In terms of practical plans, I'm planning to take Samuel to my parents' house. So they live not too far from us and not too far from the hospital. So I'll probably send Philip to take Samuel to my parents when I'm in labour at some point. So that's the plan with that. He's all looked after and sorted, so I'm very happy with that. And he goes to their house quite a bit, and he knows them, so he will be completely fine. Apart from that, the only other things that, again, I'm just struggling to mentally prepare. And a large part of this is, of course, COVID and just giving birth in what's going to be probably lockdown. And I know people last year, I feel really bad for people in 2020 that had to give birth, because the maternity units didn't know what was happening. They weren't prepared, and so I think a lot of people really struggled with birth this time last year, or March or so time last year when we went into the first lockdown. So I'm lucky that I'm not giving birth in the first lockdown, but at the same time there's still lots of restrictions in place, and as far as I know at the moment I'm allowed to have a birth partner throughout the whole of labour and just after giving birth as well, which is good. Of course these rules change all the time, and that's the thing that I struggle with. I struggle with when things change and they're not as you expect them to be. So a large part of mental preparation for me is knowing what to expect, and if things are always changing and you can't really know what to expect, then that's something that is difficult. So I really need to kind of, I don't know, just be a bit more flexible and like open to like things being slightly different. But the one thing that I really feel like I need is Philip to be there through the whole birth and at the end as well, and to obviously be with his son, and to be there for a little while as well. So that's one of the things that I find makes it harder to prepare because of COVID. I did ask my midwife if you have to get a COVID test before or when you go into the hospital the first time, and she said no, not unless you have a temperature. So they take your temperature, and then if you don't have a temperature they don't give you a test. So that's good, because the thought of a swab going down my throat when I'm in labour like makes me want to throw up, and I did throw up quite a few times in labour last time, and it'll make me sick. So I'm really hoping to not have to do a test. I forgot to mention that about my last labour as well. I had all the physical pills that they give you to like help with pain. I just puked them all up, and even they gave me an anti-sickness pill to prevent sickness, and I was sick. I puked that one up as well. So this time I'm probably not going to take as many pain relief pills. I'm going to ask for something like a morphine injection or something kind of like an injection that's not something I have to swallow, because I was really sick last time and I didn't add anything to the experience, and of course I'm not getting the pain relief if I'm being sick. So this time I'm going to say to them that I was sick a lot last time, and can I please get a pain relief injection if I feel like I need it. So I guess what I can do at the moment is I can just spend time trying to mentally prepare. There's a few things I'm going to do this week to kind of get myself more into the mindset and prepare more for labour and for the pain, because of course labour and a lot of different kinds of pain, I guess, it's a very physical thing. So you're feeling a lot of physical pain, but it's also very much a mental preparation kind of thing, and it's very much a psychological thing. And if you get yourself into the right mindset, then it helps massively. I know, because I think I was in the right mindset last time, and it really, really does help with birth. And of course, because if you're mentally not ready for birth, your body will also kind of involuntarily kind of try like resist labour almost. And what you want to be doing is not resisting the contractions or not resisting the pain, but like kind of encouraging it almost. And that's very much a mental thing. I have read some books on hypnobirthing, and I've like listened to podcasts about hypnobirthing specifically, and I do think it's a very helpful thing to look into. If you're a first time mum and you've not heard of hypnobirthing, then it's something that's a good thing to look into. It helps me on a moderate level, it helps me with the idea of giving birth, and it helps me with like the breathing techniques and stuff. So I did find hypnobirthing to be a useful thing to think about, and I'm going to kind of research a bit more about it again this time and like do some of the practices, because it did help last time to an extent, and it helped to kind of prepare me a bit more mentally to like not make my body resist labour, but to kind of move with it almost. So I'm not going to blabber on about it because it's a massive whole thing. Hypnobirthing is a massive thing in itself, but I'm going to do that a bit more of that this week and in the coming weeks, just to kind of, yeah, basically I need to mentally prepare. I'm not mentally prepared. I don't feel ready for labour, and I'm feeling anxious about labour. And because I'm feeling so anxious, and because I'm feeling so unprepared mentally, it's making me feel very anxious, and it's adding to the difficulty that I'm having sleeping at night. So I do really need to get in the zone there. Please let me know if any of you guys relate, if you're pregnant, because yeah, sometimes you feel a bit alone in these things. And I feel like I've blabbered on enough now. I've given you a big long update. I think I've covered everything I want to cover. I just hope this video was helpful for you if you are pregnant as well. And I will see you very soon in my next one. Bye guys.